Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Elder Wisdom Info channel. Have you ever sensed a subtle but undeniable shift unfolding within your life as you move through your late 70s and into your 80s? It's not always dramatic or sudden, but rather a series of small yet powerful changes that alter how you experience your days. You might notice certain gaps beginning to form not just in your daily schedule, but also in your relationships, your familiar routines, and even in your own sense of identity and place within the world. It's important to recognize that these shifts aren't signs of failure or loss of value. They are part of a much deeper, natural transition that comes with aging, one that society often doesn't openly discuss, leaving many to quietly wrestle with these feelings alone. In today's video, we'll explore 7 inevitable gaps that nearly every older adult experiences but rarely names. These gaps, though sometimes painful, also hold surprising potential for growth, peace, and new kinds of connection. Stay with us until the end because understanding these gaps might not only bring you peace, but could help you reshape this next chapter of your life with purpose, strength, and surprising connection. When you take time to recognize and understand the changes happening within and around you, it becomes easier to navigate them with grace. Instead of resisting these shifts, you can lean into them and find new sources of meaning. You'll see that acknowledging these gaps doesn't mean giving up or withdrawing. It actually opens up a path toward deeper self-awareness, emotional resilience, and even new kinds of intimacy with the world around you. By staying engaged with today's conversation, you might find not just validation for your experience, but also practical ideas for how to respond thoughtfully. So let's dive into each of these 7 gaps, starting with one that touches almost every aspect of daily life: the growing silence that creeps into your calendar. Let's explore what it means, how it feels, and how you can meet it with courage and creativity. Gap 1. The silence in your calendar. One of the very first gaps you're likely to notice as you move deeper into your 70s and 80s is the profound quiet that gradually forms in your calendar. This change goes beyond the obvious transition of retirement that speaks to a deeper thinning of responsibilities and social demands. The days that were once filled with meetings, social gatherings, or errands now stretch out with long, open spaces. At first, this new freedom can feel exhilarating. No more tight deadlines, no more rigid schedules, no more obligations pulling at you. However, over time, this quiet can start to feel less like freedom and more like a hollow vacuum. Without meaningful routines or planned activities, it becomes easy to feel adrift, as though you have somehow stepped outside the current of life. This isn't merely a logistical gap, it's an emotional one too, often striking at your sense of usefulness and relevance. Take James, a 78-year-old former engineer, for instance. After retiring and then losing his wife, James found himself facing days with no calls, no plans, and no clear purpose. At first, he welcomed the rest. He thought he deserved it. But gradually, an unsettling feeling crept in. The silence of his calendar began to mirror a silence inside himself, a troubling sense that he was no longer needed or wanted by the world. Recognizing this, James decided he had to take action. He started small, a weekly breakfast with old colleagues, volunteering at the local library once a month, daily morning walks with a neighbor. These small but meaningful routines sent a powerful, life-affirming message to his heart. I still matter. My days are still worth shaping. This gap, while inevitable, is not insurmountable. With intention and self-compassion, you can fill the empty spaces with new rhythms that nourish your spirit. Gap 2. Emotional distance from younger generations as you move through later life. Another gap that often emerges is the growing emotional and cultural distance between yourself and the younger generations around you. It's not that love disappears. Your children, grandchildren, and even great-grandchildren likely still care for you deeply. However, the world they inhabit, their conversations, their interests, their pace of life can feel almost like a foreign land compared to the world you grew up in. Visits may become shorter, filled with distracted glances at smartphones, rushed conversations, and unfamiliar references that leave you feeling out of step. Helen, an 82-year-old grandmother, captured this feeling perfectly when she shared, "When my granddaughter visited, she spent more time texting her friends than talking to me. I didn't blame her, but afterward, I realized I felt invisible like a piece of furniture. It's tempting to feel hurt or to retreat into resentment, but there's a wiser path available." Wise elders know that bridging this gap requires curiosity and openness rather than judgment. By asking questions instead of giving unsolicited advice, by embracing new forms of communication like texting or social media, and by showing genuine interest in younger loved ones' worlds, you keep the bridge of love strong. When you lead with grace and patience, you create opportunities for connection, even across generational divides. And often, when you make the first move, you'll find younger hearts more willing than you might expect to meet you halfway. Insert reminder for viewers to comment #2 if this resonates, and to subscribe. Gap 3. The absence of close peers. There's a deep and particular kind of loneliness that arises not from being alone, but from the gradual loss of those who truly know your story. As you age, spouses, siblings, lifelong friends, and old neighbors, the people who shared your history and understood you without needing long explanations, begin to pass away or drift out of your life. Psychologists refer to this phenomenon as the compression of social circles. It's not simply about having fewer people around, it's about having fewer people who remember you in your fullness or struggles, your triumphs, your milestones. Gerald, 84, expressed this poignantly. "Why bother going out to lunch when the people I used to meet aren't there anymore?" It's a sentiment many older adults quietly carry, sometimes leading to isolation and withdrawal. However, Gerald eventually found a way to honor both his memories and his need for community. He joined a local storytelling group where he could share his life experiences with a new audience. While these new friends didn't know the people he talked about, they listened with genuine interest and respect. In doing so, Gerald discovered that sharing his stories didn't just preserve his memories, it created new bonds, rooted in understanding and appreciation. Even when the old companions are gone, your experiences still have value. By sharing them, you not only keep your past alive, but also sow seeds of connection for the future. Gap 4. Separation from modern culture. One of the subtler but profoundly disorienting gaps you may encounter as you age is the feeling that modern culture is no longer built for you or even recognizably familiar. The music played in public spaces, the shows and humor popularized in the media, the pace and tone of social interactions, all of it can seem overwhelming or alien. It's not just a matter of keeping up. It's the realization that the culture you helped build has evolved into something you sometimes struggle to understand or even relate to. Many older adults report feeling invisible or disregarded in a world that seems obsessed with youth, speed, and novelty. It's easy to feel marginalized or irrelevant. And yet, it's important to remember, while you may not resonate with every modern trend, your wisdom and life experience remain deeply valuable. Some older adults, like Margaret, 79, have found ways to adapt creatively. Margaret started attending local film screenings and book clubs aimed at multi-generational audiences. While she didn't always get the latest movies or memes, she approached them with curiosity rather than judgment. Through this openness, she discovered that connection doesn't always require full understanding, it often just requires shared experiences and mutual respect. Even as culture changes around you, you still have the power to engage with it on your terms, choosing which new aspects to explore and which to let pass by. This is called cultural displacement. As you move through your later years, you might find yourself experiencing what experts now call cultural displacement. It's the feeling that the world you once knew, the customs, rhythms, and traditions you grew up with has been replaced by something almost unrecognizable. This is not your fault. It's the inevitable result of living in a society that changes at a relentless pace, often prioritizing speed, novelty, and noise over depth and reflection. Wise elders recognize that you don't have to chase these trends to maintain your dignity and presence. Instead, it's enough to stay deeply rooted in timeless values like kindness, patience, honesty, and respect. Louise, 82, said it beautifully. "I don't get TikTok videos, but when my grandson shows me one that makes him laugh, I smile. Because I still get him." You don't have to understand every new thing to stay emotionally connected. True presence being attentive, caring, and steady is far more powerful than trying to be culturally fluent. Insert reminder for viewers to comment #4 and subscribe. Gap 5. A slower pace in a faster world. Another inevitable gap you will likely encounter as you age is the widening distance between your natural pace and the accelerating speed of the world around you. With time, your body, mind, and spirit naturally adopt a more reflective, measured rhythm. You move more deliberately, think more contemplatively, and savor moments more deeply. Meanwhile, society continues to rush forward, texting at lightning speed, scrolling endlessly through information, multitasking constantly, without pausing for breath. Sometimes others misinterpret your slower movements or thoughtful pauses as forgetfulness or weakness, but nothing could be further from the truth. Wise elders understand that slowing down isn't a loss, it's an evolution. Richard, 79, shared how he now spends quiet mornings sitting by the window, simply watching sunlight weave through the trees. That half hour of stillness, he says, brings him more peace and fulfillment than the busiest days of his working life ever did. You aren't falling behind her, aligning with a deeper, more sacred rhythm of living. Gap 6. The emotional gap around grief. Grief is another tender but profound gap that becomes even more pronounced as you journey deeper into your later years. When you lose someone, now a spouse, a sibling, a childhood friend, you might find that the external support you once expected is now noticeably absent. There are fewer condolence visits, fewer shared meals, fewer late-night calls of comfort. Often, society seems to expect that you will quietly absorb your sorrow and move on without burdening others. But wise elders know the truth. Grief has no expiration date. It is not something to be rushed, hidden, or minimized. It arrives in waves sometimes, triggered by a song on the radio, a familiar scent, or an unexpected memory, and each wave deserves to be honored. Allow yourself the full range of your emotions. Speak the names of those you've lost. Tell their stories to keep them alive in your heart. Light candles in their memory. Write them letters. Your grief is sacred. Honor it. Gap 7. The spiritual gap that asks, what still matters? As you continue growing older, you may encounter one of the most profound and introspective gaps yet, the quiet space that opens up between what once mattered and what still holds meaning now. Material achievements, career milestones, and social status often lose their previous significance. Instead, deeper questions begin to take root. What legacy am I leaving? What truly endures beyond me? Wise elders do not shy away from these questions, they embrace them. They understand that this chapter of life is not merely an epilogue. It is the most honest, distilled, and beautiful expression of their humanity. Small acts, listening with full attention, offering forgiveness, expressing gratitude without delay become sacred practices. Repairing old wounds, deepening connections, and loving without hesitation take center stage. In this way, your later years are not a closing, they are a culmination, where every gesture and word holds extraordinary weight and meaning. This is the chapter where your spirit shines most brightly. As we come to the close of today's video, it's worth taking a deep breath and reflecting on the real message behind these 7 inevitable gaps. They are not simply signs of decline or loss. They are invitations, opportunities to live more intentionally, to love more openly, and to walk through the world with greater wisdom and authenticity. Every gap you encounter is a chance to grow deeper into yourself and to offer the world a version of you that is softer, stronger, and more true. Which of these gaps resonated most deeply with you? Which ones are you already beginning to notice in your own journey or anticipate feeling in the near future? Take a moment to reflect and, if you feel comfortable, share your thoughts in the comments below. Your reflections help build a community of wisdom and support here. If you found today's video valuable, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Thank you for being part of this beautiful journey with us.